NTB, man. So, children are charged as adults more often and in more situations than many people in America would ever understand. The criminal justice system charges young men and young women as adults for some of the most innocuous things and not necessarily for horrendous or heinous crimes. The truth is, a child can be charged as an adult for basically anything, and they often are. Let's talk about it, man. All right, NTB, man. So, when I first started practicing law, I didn't know that children, particularly in very poor neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, brown neighborhoods, all across the country, were being arrested and charged as adults for the most basic of alleged offenses. I didn't know that. And that's one of the reasons I just wanted to share this information with you as well, because if I didn't know and I was in the legal profession, studied law, maybe you didn't know as well. I had always believed that a child had to do something like really bad, extremely violent to be arrested and charged as an adult, but that's not the case. It's really standard operating procedures now to pick young people up and charge them as adults, meaning process them, take them to criminal court rather than family court, and expose them, subject them to the most harshest of penalties, including long-term incarceration and permanent criminal records that would permanently knock them outside of full participation in American society. I didn't know that until I saw it firsthand, and then I started doing some investigation, questioning people, and it was just, hey, yeah, this is the way we do it here. This is the way it's done. All right, so let me give you a quick story about how I came to realize what was really going on in the criminal justice system in terms of how they was prosecuting young people as adults. I had a case, and I had a prosecutor. This prosecutor was just adamant about prosecuting this young man who didn't need to be prosecuted. He did not need to be prosecuted. He was a young, rising football star at a high school. His mother was coming from the inner city, and they lived in the inner city, and he went to school, and he was trying to find his way out through football. But he was a small guy, but an exceptional talent. I think 145, 150 pounds, high school guy. And it was like a private school, so they all wore uniforms. And he was in the newspapers a lot. They had a lot of write-ups on him, and a lot of college interested in him. And so one day after school, he and his friends were coming out of the store at 3 o'clock, and they bought some, potato chips and, 25-cent juices. And they're coming out the store, and a big old grown behind man, 40 years old, is in the doorway. They hit the doorway at the same time. So he's telling them to move, get out the way. And they're like, yo, no, you get out the way. We're coming out, let us out. And so, this standoff in the doorway, and one thing led to another. And the man and the boys, the three boys, got into a fight, a physical altercation. The man, he gets the worst of it, The three boys, they're not going to let this man just jump on one of them. Boys, they friends, so they defend their friend. And in the process, in the fight, the man loses his shoe, comes off, loses his hat, goes flying, loses cell phone, flies out his hand onto the floor. And then, the scuffle was broken up, and kids, they go their way. Then the man gets up, and he's like, "Oh, where's my hat? Where's my shoe? Where's my phone? I can't find my phone. They robbed me. They robbed my phone." And so he calls the police on the kids and says that he was robbed. That the attack was based upon an attempted robbery, not what it was, not what it really was. So anyway, police come. They start picking up any kids with a uniform on after school. So they round up a bunch of kids. You was involved with this fight, because the kids had moved on by that time. Eventually they picked up my client and two of his friends, and they get them down to the station, let the other kids go. They rounded up. And now they're charging them. Listen to this. They're charging them, 15 years old, they're charging them as adults. They're charging them with assault. Mind you, there's some more backstory to this too. His mother is adult learning, so that's how I knew of him before I even met him, because she used to just brag about him all the time, just rave about what a good kid he was and how well he was doing in school, and she would show me the articles of him in the newspaper, just her pride and joy. Single mom, I'm from the projects, trying to get her kid to a better life. Anyway, so I go to the courts, and I'm looking around, and I see him, this little kid, and I'm like, what the heck? All these hardcore robbers and scammers and thugs from the Brooklyn streets, and this little 15-year-old kid sitting up in there. So I talk to him, I tell him, his mom wants me here to try to work things out. So let me talk to the DA, find out what's going on. So I go over to the DA and I introduce myself. I tell him, I'm here to represent such and such. And so he pulled the file. Oh, okay. So I asked him, can you find out what's going on with the case? He pulled the case. Oh, okay. This is yeah, Mr. Such and such. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, he and his friends, they jumped the man, the CW, and CW is complaining witness, and they beat him and robbed him of some possessions, or attempted to rob him for some others. And so we're charging him with robbery and assault and gang assault, and like what? He had charges from the floor to the ceiling, man. And I'm like, this is bananas. And so I asked him. I said, let me ask you something. I said, do you know his age? He said, yeah, he's 15. I said, so why is he even here? Why is he here? Besides the fact that all those charges are bogus, should he not be in family court? And he was like, oh no, Mr. Bay, we don't do that anymore here. Fights after school we take very, very serious. These kids it's not like what it was when I was like, listen. He's going on and on trying to justify why he's charging his 15-year-old child as an adult. And he's telling me that he's looking at 25 years in the penitentiary. And he's doing this all with a straight face. No empathy, no nothing. He's telling me that, the case is going to be going to the grand jury, yada, yada, yada. And I'm asking him, can he send this over to family court? He refuses to put in a request to do that. He's going to prosecute these kids as an adult, meaning they're going to process him not as a child, but as a grown behind man, give him grown behind time, send him to a grown behind prison if convicted. Prison, not jail. And so I give his family the grim news. And, I definitely speak my piece on how this is a part of the criminal justice system has to be fixed, because this is unfair. And it being used towards poor people who don't have power. And it's an atrocity. It's an atrocity. Children's lives are being destroyed. Children's lives are being destroyed. And all this man's talents, they're going to try to put him under the jail. So we go on, I'm prepping for the case, and they give me the grand jury date, and so I call the DA periodically, to get a sense of what we're going to do with this case. I'm sharing information with him about the kid, the family, his prospects for the future, and I'm asking him, don't put this weight on his family because they don't have the money to really pay, and the kid didn't do what they saying he did, and the kid has a bright future. Don't throw him away. And he resists. He's like, nope, we're going forward. Grand jury date. I said, well, listen, my sense is you have a weak case, and so it's unfair prosecution. And my sense is that your CW may not even be a participant in this prosecution. He said, oh, no, Mr. Bay, you're reading this case wrong, very, very wrong. He's a full participant. He's totally committed to getting justice for what was done to him. And I said, okay. So when's the jury date? So he give me the date. We stand by. So he calls me, day of the grand jury. Oh, Mr. Bay, we had to postpone the grand jury. Why? What happened? Oh, the CW didn't show up. Oh, okay. Oh, he didn't show up, huh? This is the guy he's telling me is fully committed to this prosecution. He didn't show up. Okay, but we got a new date, so he had an emergency. So, okay, well, I told you you're gonna have a problem with the CW. He's not fully committed to his prosecution. So I'm asking you to just let this case go. He's like, oh no, Mr. Bay, I told you we can't do that. So he goes on. Next date, CW doesn't show up, and check this out. And he's not even answering his phone anymore. He's ignoring the district attorney. He's not answering his phone. They can't even contact him. So he calls me. I get a call. Because I know when the DA called my phone, their number comes up in a certain way. So it comes up, and I'm like, oh, that's the DA. Let me see what this guy wants. But I already knew. So I pick up the phone, and he tells me, oh, Mr. Bay, I got some good news for you. So you got good news for me? What, you got a problem with the CW? He said, yeah, unfortunately, we can't contact him. He's missing in action, so good news, we're going to just drop the case. I told you should have done that from the beginning. This wasn't a fair prosecution from the beginning. I know, Mr. Bay, that's how you feel, but, I have to do my job. I said, your job is justice. But anyway, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for letting me know. You have a great day. And so the thing is, I'm sure he really believed in his mind that he had a solid case. He had a CW that was going to work with him. But again, a lot of times you have to get beyond just the law. And that's what he's looking at. He's looking at the law. He's looking at the books. He's looking at the alleged crime and the allegations. But he's not looking into the mind of a man. He's not looking into the mind of a man. And how, in the heat of the moment, yeah, the man is mad. He's upset. He got whipped. But then, at the end of the day, he came to his senses. His emotions settled down, and he came to realize that to prosecute these young kids, it wasn't just. As a man, he realized to prosecute these young kids and to take their lives over an emotional interaction that just got out of hand, that he as an adult should not have let get out of hand. He wasn't going to do it. And lastly, what he wasn't going to do as a man was going to walk in court, raise his right hand in front of the grand jurors, and testify in the grand jury while all these people are listening that
he got whipped
as a grown man by 3 little bitty high school kids. He wasn't going to do it. That's psychology. He just wasn't going to do it. Because they were going to be looking at him like, okay, well, you're 40, you're big, these are little kids. Like the women going to be stabbing. They might have questions. Did you fight back? Did you get a lick in? Well, ma'am, I was trying, and the kid was fast. He ain't doing that, man. So This was a predictable ending to a situation that just really got out of hand, and the district attorney's office, in this instance, I was very disappointed. They should have put the brakes on this, but they didn't. But justice prevailed, psychology prevailed, and this young man went on to college to play football at a very, very high level. He's doing fine. Anyway.
Yeah, so in America, that's kind of what America does. They prosecute, arrest young people, and charge them as adults for some of the most non-serious offenses when you really examine the particulars of the case. And we take their lives from them, we take their futures, and we just keep it moving. That's just the way it's done here. That's just the way it's done. New York is moving away from that. They just had some recent reforms where they're stopping from doing that. They're not doing that as much. They changed the laws where children are not being charged as adults so effortlessly. But across the country, it's still being done. Still being done. That's just the way it is. NTB, man.